I've met some venture capitalists who worry that they can't have an honest or direct conversation with the founder of color or female founder. These are people who want to be great. They want to be coached. They want to be helped. They want to be told when they're not doing well.
Charles Hudson, Managing Partner at Precursor Ventures, stopped by Gschool recently to share his thoughts on how investment and entrepreneurship are changing in a post-COVID world. Listen in as Charles explains how he attracts a diverse portfolio of founders and how COVID is reshaping the investment landscape.
Our first fund, if you look at the companies as a group, a quarter of them had a female founder and a quarter had a founder of color. That was not intentional, but when I started the firm, I said, if we can't get to at least a quarter, I have serious questions about our sourcing methodology because it's important to me to build kind of a diverse portfolio. For our second fund, half of the founders in total that we've backed are female, and like 60% of the companies have a female founder on the team. And what I've realized is it doesn't feel to me like we do a lot of things different to attract a different audience than other VC firms. What I've realized is we don't have a traction requirement. We fund a lot of pre-launch, pre-revenue companies, and we fund a lot of people whose claim to fame is not that they were an executive at some super well-known startup. Some of my investor friends are like, I'm looking for AI companies, machine learning companies, autonomous driving, and enterprise software. We don't have that philosophy. We're very founder driven. So what I'm looking for is really two things. One is a founder who has a really good and strong insight on his or her problem space, and a market that I think is robust and like open for business for a new competitor. So what I found is like, if you relax those conditions, you just have a really different set of people to choose from. And what we found is there's lots of people that I think are just overlooked. Like I think there's a lot of VCs who say, I want to find repeat founders from a really small set of successful companies, from a really small set of schools. And if that's your filtering technique, it's going to produce a very specific type of founder because those institutions themselves have a really specific makeup of the people who go through them. And I just felt like if you change the criteria, you should probably be able to change the people. The interesting thing is in our second fund, all 5 of our top performing companies are female founded and female led. One of the most common questions we get from my peers in VC is, well, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. We're not trying to do anything different. I'd say the one thing we are doing that's slightly different is we try to treat all the founders in our portfolio the same. And I think I've met some venture capitalists who worry that they can't have an honest or direct conversation with the founder of color or female founder. They might hurt their feelings. They might like say the wrong thing. And I'm like, these are people who want to be great. Like they want to build amazing companies. Like they want to be coached. They want to be helped. They want to be told when they're not doing well. And like they want the same treatment from you that your majority male founders want. And I also tell people like, you have to at least signal to the world that you're open. So one of the first things we did when we designed the website for the firm is we decided we would put founder pictures up instead of company logos. Because I think it's weird to say, we're really focused on the founders. Look at all these logos that we've backed. So we wanted to sort of flip the paradigm and say, we're going to put the people front and center with the goal that like everybody would see people on our homepage that they could identify with. Well, maybe I should just tell you like what some of the objections were that I got when I started the fund. The first one was, hey, it's a single partner. That seems risky. And it's a lot of work for me, but it's work that I enjoy doing and it seems to be working. So I haven't fallen over and the firm hasn't fallen over. So we've checked that box. Second, people said, well, aren't you only going to end up getting these entrepreneurs that are like adverse selection, the ones that are like not like good enough to go walk into the big fancy VC firms and raise money? And I said, well, no. I think there's lots of people who are out of their orbit, whether it's because of their geography, whether it's because of their academic background, whether it's because of their previous life experience, like they don't fit the mold of what those folks are looking for. And the third one was like, can you get pricing to work? Can you actually invest in these companies at prices where you'll make money? And of all of them, honestly, the adverse selection was the one I was most worried about. And that's proven to be totally untrue. And I think the big surprising thing for me is I figured that a big chunk of our portfolio would be outside the Bay Area. We'd have to go look far and wide to find entrepreneurs. It turns out that if you're in the Bay Area, there's a lot of people who aren't connected to venture capitalists, which I think VCs sometimes forget. So yeah, the first 15 employees at a company probably know the founders well enough that if they go to leave to start a company, they might be able to get an introduction through the founders, through the people who funded the company. But if you're employee 500, it's probably less likely to happen for you. And so it turns out there's a lot of people in my own backyard who benefit from the kind of capital that we can provide. And I did not think that would be the case. So the thing that's proven to be as hard as I thought is fundraising, getting limited partners to get as excited about our model as I am. But I think as a consequence, it means we have relatively little competition because most other people who are trying to do what we're doing also have challenges getting investors excited about the models. It's interesting. The companies in our portfolio that are doing best right now, generally were struggling pre-COVID. So we have two companies that are doing distance education, and they had a hard time selling before. They'd go pitch universities and say, look at this campus, it's full of students. They're in the classroom. This virtual remote learning thing you're talking about, it sounds like a nice to have. It's not a must have. And then the world changed. So all of these conversations they were having previously that were impossible log jams to navigate are suddenly open and available to them. And with an urgency that they've never seen before. And we have a couple of companies we have a few others in sort of remote collaboration and team building. We have a company called Range Labs that helps distributed teams stay connected. Again, people sort of said, oh, this is a nice tool, but most of the people in our company are in the office. Like this isn't a must-have product. And they've just seen a real explosion in demand, whereas before I think people said it was a nice to have. I think the bigger challenge though, we also have other companies like that are exposed to the restaurant industry, which is really not functioning in the way it has historically right now, and trying to give those companies advice. So I think the hardest thing for investors right now is trying to figure out post-COVID, what does the world look like? Some people are making really, I'd say, confident, strong bets that like the future is going to look more like our current moment. Other people are saying, I don't think so. I think we're going to go back to something closer to what we had before. So all the businesses that I think made sense beforehand will make sense again. And the question of how do you finance them? Like, for example, I have a friend who works at Rent the Runway. And he said, as you can imagine, our business is down substantially because the kind of clothes that we rent, like people can't go to galas and events, and they don't even need to dress up to go to work. So the use case for what they had has gone away. And there was like, we're not sure when that's going to come back or what it's going to look like when it does. Versus other businesses, I would say, where there's maybe a temporary decline in, like if you just have a regular software as a service business selling to businesses, you're probably experiencing some pain, but that's more macroeconomic, not sort of like what could be a permanent change of behavior.
If you want to level up your product skills and get expert feedback from industry leaders like Charles, you need to check out Gschool, our private learning community for innovative product leaders. Gschool delivers the education, coaching, and support you need to bring your engaging idea to life faster and smarter. Go to gamethinking.io/Gschool to learn more and apply for early access. I'll see you there.